What is going on, everyone? Today is May 27th. It is my birthday. I turned 20 today. But just want to start off by saying took absolutely nothing today. There was nothing I really wanted to put some risk on. And I'm going to go ahead and make this video super quick and simple so I can enjoy the rest of my birthday. So, coming into the day, we have this 1 hour CRT playing out at the top. Got this candles high that gets swept out. And we begin to deliver lower into these bullish gaps right here. But coming into market open, I was kind of leaning more long bias just because we have all-time highs right here. It's a nice 180-point move, 200-point move away. I was expecting all-time highs to be hit, or at least hitting one of these 15-minute gaps and respecting it and going lower. Then I would be able to follow through and go short. But that is not what ends up happening. If we see market open, it just ends up dumping lower and disrespecting all these bullish gaps. So after seeing us disrespect these gaps, I began to look for shorts rather than stay long bias, and began to look on some higher time frame draws. On the 1 hour, we have this swing low down here. Did I expect this to get hit? Not really, to be honest. However, looking at the 4 hour, we do have this unmitigated gap. Whoa, I didn't realize these were connected. Okay, so we have this unmitigated 4 hour gap right here that also lines up with this swing low right here on the hourly. So yeah, this became my draw on liquidity. I began to look for lower. Unfortunately though, we just do not have any sort of retracement back into the range to look for a move lower. If we see we have this inversion for no reason, and then bang, just absolutely takes that out in a 1 minute. And yeah, price just begins to chop around. But now we get this nice cleaner move higher, and we see this entry into this 5 minute sell side imbalance, buy side inefficiency, as well as this second one on the leg down. I would like to note that ES is flying higher at this point, making a move towards AM high. Boom, New York AM high, while NQ is nowhere near that. Yeah, so NQ is nowhere near its New York AM high whatsoever. For some reason, we have a skip in the chart, but let me just replay that. But yeah, NQ is nowhere near its New York AM high. I would also like to note that I did end up fading this first inversion play because of how many times I've been getting burned on these, shorting and premium in the range. So I was thinking about taking this, and I did not because I was remembering my losses from earlier this week and last week as well. So I decided to fade this trade, even though we tapped into a 5 minute gap, the higher one that was more, higher in the range. But if you look at price, we are not in OTE. We have only hit EQ and rebalance to equilibrium. I did not think that was good enough to rip back lower, but I still was short biased, but I just faded this one. Listen to my rules, pretty happy about that. But now that we're in OTE the range and we are also in this 15 minute gap, I am a lot more eager to take this lower. Waiting, boom, we get this 1 minute change in the state of delivery as NQ, or as ES sweeps New York AM high, making this SMT right here. We tap into OTE. This would have been the ideal trade for me. However, 57.5 point stop, not really ideal. Would have been a 2.6 risk to reward. However, it's just not a stop loss that I would be comfortable putting size on. Maybe 1 micro, but at that point, I'm not making or losing anything. So I just ended up fading this and waiting on something cleaner to play out. Waiting. We end up getting an SMT at this low, if I remember correctly, but I'm not taking that into account. Obviously, in a bearish trend, we are going to get SMTs at the highs and SMTs at the lows. But because we're bearish, I'm not going to take the SMTs at the lows into consideration until DOL has been hit. So what do we notice? We notice that we start to see a 3 minute gap as well as a 3 minute change in the state of delivery. This right here is bread and butter right here. Bang. So we have this 3 minute change in the state of delivery, as well as this 3 minute sell side imbalance, buy side inefficiency. And I'm looking for price to re-enter this area and, see some sort of confirmation and go lower. And what do we see happen? Boom, I'm eyeing this fair value gap right here. Once this inverses, I'm going to nuke this bad boy lower and target that unmitigated 4-hour fair value gap that's resting below. Unfortunately, though, I did end up calling this out. This was exactly what I wanted to see happen right here. You see the SMT at the highs, you see the inversion, everything beautiful. Just look at the atrocious candle closure that we end up getting on this move down. I cannot justify a 62-point stop loss when my take profit is 110 points. That is less than 2R, and it is such a wide stop. So instead, I put my entry at 40 points, and I was comfortable risking 40 points on this trade, made the RR a lot more juicy. However, what do we see happen? Bang, price rips without me. And at this point, I deleted my limit. I eyed this 5-minute order block. I was going to set a limit on that. But after we swept the draw on liquidity, I was not going to short after respecting a 4-hour bullish gap. So unfortunately, I did not get in on this trade. I was not filled. I was not comfortable taking this trade. It was way too high, way too wide of a stop loss as well. But yeah, honestly, man, after this happens, we kind of just chop around for the entirety of the session without really delivering into either direction. New York AM low is still respected the entire time. However, these highs are swept and then we fall back into the range. As you can see right here, we sweep these equal highs, fall deep back into the range, and then we get this really slow grind into a PM session. And I'm not really interested in putting any risk on this. I'm not really interested in risking any of my dollar on this. Yeah, so I ended up saving my money for tomorrow, and hopefully tomorrow shows a better setup. But yeah, today it was overall pretty choppy. However, I'm glad I followed my rules and faded this, potential L. Unfortunately, though, I'm a little annoyed that I did miss this entry. Even if I put my entry on the 1-minute change in the state, I would have not been filled either. So just pretty brutal. I've been trying to risk more on these accounts, but that also means that I am not comfortable taking a 70, 60-point stop loss just because I want to risk more. Me risking more in turn means that I want to receive more out of my trade as well. So if I'm risking $250, I'd like to at least see $500 worth of profit. And on this trade, if I entered on the close of the candle, I would have only saw around $400, but I would have been risking, $260. And that's not something that I'm comfortable taking, because if I, do accept that risk, it's not really worth the reward, in my opinion. Same idea with this trade right here. This would have been a little bit better RR, a little bit better, of an entry if I entered on the change in the state of delivery. However, I did want to see some more confirmation, like this, another SMT at the New York high. This would have been pretty nice, a little 2.68, but again, these stop loss is just so massive. But it is what it is. We lock in and load up for tomorrow. Capital preservation is never a bad thing. And yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Hopefully it goes a little bit better. And yeah,